Arman Tsarukyan has been stuck in limbo since he dominated Dan Hooker last November in Qatar. For months, the expectation was simple. Tsarukyan fights for interim gold in January, then meets Ilia Topuria for the undisputed lightweight title. That plan collapsed, and his own antics outside the cage are widely believed to be the reason the promotion passed him over. Now reports are circling that Tsarukyan will run it back with Charles Oliveira at UFC 331 in September. Here's the twist. For months, fans assumed Tsarukyan was hinting at a title shot. Turns out, he was talking about a rematch with Do Bronx, possibly with the BMF strap involved. Recent word suggests the fight is close to being finalized, but that symbolic belt may not make it into the contract. Tsarukyan did leave the door open to an alternative if Oliveira falls through. When pushed on why he'd even bother with a fight that gives him little to gain, he didn't hold back. Right now, the smart money says Tsarukyan and Oliveira meet without the BMF title on the line, and that might not sit well with the Armenian. In the meantime, he stayed active outside the octagon, submitting an Indian influencer in a grappling match just this past weekend. One thing is clear, Tsarukyan isn't sitting around waiting for his shot. He's forcing the promotion's hand. Daniel Cormier doesn't think Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland can manufacture beef twice. The two middleweight stars could be on a collision course again, with the former champion pushing hard for an immediate rematch. Strickland beat Chimaev at UFC 328 to become a two-time champion at 185. That result handed Boris his first loss in MMA, and he hasn't taken it well. Chimaev has gone after Strickland online, accusing him of ducking a rematch. That reignited a public back and forth between the two, but Cormier isn't buying that there's genuine hostility left. His reasoning goes back to what happened after the final bell in May. The build-up to UFC 328 was one of the most heated in recent memory. Dana White even looked uneasy having the two anywhere near each other during fight week. But after 5 rounds inside the Prudential Center, they embraced and Chimaev physically strapped the title around Strickland's waist. That moment, Cormier says, changed everything. Cormier's point is that without real animosity, the promotional engine that sold the first fight simply doesn't exist anymore. Strickland initially shut the rematch talk down entirely, a decision that briefly boosted Nassourdine Imavov's hopes of finally landing a title shot. But after months of shots fired from Boris, the champion has suggested he may run it back just to shut his former opponent up for good. Which rematch the promotion actually books next remains to be seen.
On fight week, I didn't get to interview him. It was that bad. They talked about killing each other and all this stuff. And then that was buried. So I thought to myself, okay, this thing's over because you cannot sell a rematch or any type of rivalry between these two because you almost pulled the curtain back. Now, Generally, guys, we would all jump on this. Oh, we'd be like, oh my goodness, they're at it again. Two dudes that hate each other are going to fight again if we did not get that moment in Newark. A moment that we didn't really need. It was unnecessary. You don't have to bury the hatchet, at least in his mind. When he tells you that it's not real, I was selling a fight, you believe him. Because you believe him in everything else, right? We have to. He does not sugarcoat anything. That's why people love him. Now, how are we as fans? Look, I would watch those two fight every day of the week. Because I love the fight within the fight. To that general fan, how do we get him to believe it? When the ultimate truth speaker in our league has told us he doesn't really hate him as much as it may seem. They're not going to be able to sell it on a blood feud like they did last time, because it just isn't that when you see what we saw after the fight.
Usman Nurmagomedov just did it again. Friday night at UBS Arena, in the main event of PFL New York, all it took was 1 round to put Archie Colgan away. That's win number 22 without a single loss on his record, and he's still walking around with the PFL lightweight belt strapped to his waist. But here's what everyone's actually talking about this weekend. That win closed out Nurmagomedov's PFL contract. He's officially a free agent, and the only question anybody in this sport wants answered is whether he's finally headed to the UFC. His manager Ali Abdelaziz thinks he is. And he isn't just hyping a potential signing, he's making a prediction that's already got people talking. Abdelaziz is pointing back to something he called correctly once before, Justin Gaethje's brutal finish of Ilia Topuria out on the White House lawn at UFC Freedom 250. Now he's saying Nurmagomedov gets it done even faster. Writing on X, Abdelaziz said, quote, "I told everyone before that Justin Gaethje would beat Ilia Topuria, and I'm telling you today, Usman Nurmagomedov will stop Ilia Topuria within 4 rounds, end quote. That's a bold claim, but it comes with a big if, because the UFC still has to actually get a deal done, and that's where this gets complicated. Jake Paul, who's backing PFL financially, has already called Nurmagomedov the best lightweight on the planet, which tells you PFL has no intention of letting him walk without a fight of their own. Even Nurmagomedov's own teammate, UFC welterweight champion Islam Makhachev, has said out loud that he's not convinced the UFC will pay what it actually takes to get this deal across the line. So for right now, this fight only exists on paper. But if Ali Abdelaziz is right, Ilia Topuria should already be a little worried. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Usman Nurmagomedov signs with the UFC? And if he does he really run through Topuria that fast?
He matches up extremely well with every one of those guys. The guy that's going to be the toughest puzzle, in my opinion, is Topuria. He's going to be the toughest puzzle, but we'll get him solved too. But he's the toughest puzzle, and he's the one I would have the most respect going up against. Just me, my personal opinion. Khabib's opinion may be different. Other coaches that train Usman might have different, but my opinion is our toughest task that we have to work on is Ili, and we would do it. I know we would do it, but he is definitely by far our toughest challenge. I feel.
By the way, I heard you speaking, I think it was in a different interview, about how he trains obviously with Islam Makhachev. Islam has this fight coming up just in a couple of weeks. What are those training sessions like, being able to see Usman and Islam, having live rounds together and sort of coming into their fights together?
See, that's my secret. That's the thing people don't understand. I'm not this genius guy. We get to watch these great fighters in front of me do what they do. And so I used to watch Islam and Khabib go, so how hard was it for me to pick Islam to be the next ruler of that division? Why? Because I watched it. So it's the same thing. I get to watch Usman and Islam go at it. So that's why I can say what I'm saying with the confidence I'm saying it, because I watch what this kid does.
UFC 331 might be the night Arman Tsarukyan finally gets what he's been chasing. Back in early 2025, Tsarukyan was lined up to fight Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title. He pulled out. Since then, he submitted Dan Hooker and served as a title fight backup, but the shot never came. Now, according to Ariel Helwani, the UFC has made him a deal. Beat Mauricio Ruffy at UFC 331, and Tsarukyan gets his title shot. A rematch with Charles Oliveira for the BMF title was actually the original plan. That fell through, which is how Ruffy ended up in the co-main event on September 19th in Los Angeles, a card that also features Joshua Van defending his flyweight title against Alexandre Pantoja. Not everyone's on board with this pairing. Ruffy's ranked 7th, and some fans think Tsarukyan's shot is overdue without a stepping stone fight, but he hasn't been idle. 12 grappling and wrestling bouts since his last UFC outing, with wins over Muhammad Mokaev, Orija Faber, and Tony Ferguson. His first loss came against Colby Covington in July. He answered it weeks later by submitting Ankit Bayanpuria. Now the focus shifts back to the cage. Beat Ruffy and Justin Gaethje could be waiting.
I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Arman versus Justin, not going to happen, too quick of a turnaround for Justin. All right, Arman versus Charles, BMF, not going to happen. It's Arman Tsarukyan against Mauricio Ruffy in a fight no one saw coming. I'm told, Arman was told by the UFC brass, he wins this fight, he's getting a title shot. I'm told Justin Gaethje is not fighting for the rest of the year. I think Gaethje fights again, period. Had a big fight in June, not fighting the rest of the year isn't that big a deal. I certainly don't think there should be an interim title fight. Ruffy fought in June, Paddy Pimblett fought for, 14 seconds or whatever it was in July, just like 3 weeks later. Like, that would have been a fight that I would have loved to see. Arman versus Paddy. 155 pounds, make it a number one contender fight, I don't care. If Arman wins, he has to be the number one contender fight. The number one contender, obviously. If Ruffy wins, does he leapfrog the likes of Max? Does he leapfrog the likes of Paddy? Sure, I mean, I love Ruffy.
The UFC president sees the promotion's next numbered event as a classic striker versus grappler puzzle. Fresh off the promotion's debut in Serbia, the Octagon heads back to the United States for a fight night at the Meta Apex before UFC 330 lands in Philadelphia on August 15th. That card is headlined by Islam Makhachev defending his welterweight title against Ian Machado Garry. Makhachev will walk in as a heavy favorite, but Dana White thinks the champion's path to victory depends on doing something Garry happens to be excellent at stopping. Makhachev claimed the welterweight crown last November by beating Jack Della Maddalena, becoming the promotion's 11th two-division champion in the process. He got there using a control-heavy grappling approach that completely shut down Della Maddalena's striking. Many expect the same blueprint at UFC 330, but Makhachev's own coach has teased something different this time, a no-takedown strategy that would genuinely surprise fans if it plays out that way. Gary's only real blemish in MMA is a narrow loss to the undefeated Khamzat Rakhmonov, a fight the Irishman pushed to the limit 2 years ago. Since then, the future has beaten Carlos Prates and Belal Muhammad to punch his ticket to this title shot. If White's red is right, the entire fight could come down to one simple question. Can Gary actually keep this fight standing?
But the Ian Garry-Islam fight, what exactly are you expecting from it? Ian's made a lot of headlines because he did a podcast and said, I guess, the opposite of what Josh Hokett said. He said women should run the world and stuff like that. But the fight itself, how much of a challenge do you think Ian is for Islam?
Yeah, I think it's a great fight, actually. If you look at what Ian Garry has been able to do, he frustrates people. His takedown defense has been excellent, and we'll see if he can stay on his feet with, obviously if he can stay off the ground, he poses a serious threat to Islam.
That's it from MMA Time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA updates.